We have two fantastic guest speakers who will be sharing some insights on building your brand to stand out. Everett Taylor is no stranger to the startup world. He has built several brands, which is testament to his entrepreneurial drive and business acumen. As a new CMO of Artsy, a global platform collecting and discovering art, he works to further democratize the art world. Michell and Everett will cover the cost-effective digital marketing standing out in a crowded market, as we all know the startup space world is, about building your personal and professional brand and how he made it to expert brand builder and Forbes 30 under 30. And of course, as we mentioned earlier on, joining him in this fireside chat is Michell Clark, who is Chief Digital Officer of Creative Summit Company. He's a strategist, journalist, and writer who seeks to inspire creatives and entrepreneurs to love themselves while consistently striving to be their best selves. Because of the technical difficulties, Everett will be on speakerphone because Michell has called him on there. So we're going to make this work, startup culture-wise. Love it. Don't share his mobile number. Once again, as well, if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A features. Gentlemen, I'll pass it on to you. Let's show them some startup grind, virtual love in the chat to Michell and Everett.
All right. Thank you so much. Everett, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. How you doing, man?
I'm cool, man. I got Zoom fatigue, honestly. These pandemic times has been definitely interesting, but it's good to be here today. How are you, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We'll go ahead and dive right into it. So my first question for you, everyone's entrepreneurial path is different, of course. There's no one path for anything. So talk to us real quick about what made you take the leap and start your first entrepreneurial venture.
Man, that's a super long story, but I know we're running late, so I'll try to keep it really quick. I was in my first year at Virginia Tech, completed that, tried to go back to school for my sophomore year. My family was dealing with some issues and some financial issues, and so I decided to make the hard decision to drop out after my first year of college at Virginia Tech to go help. And, when I came back home, a lot of people don't realize this, but I started my first marketing job when I was 14 years old. And then while my first year at Tech, I actually had a marketing job as well. And so, I had several years of marketing experience, and I went back home to try to apply for marketing jobs, and nobody was giving me an opportunity. I was applying to jobs like crazy on LinkedIn. No one was giving me an opportunity, and I actually A/B tested a fake LinkedIn profile with like a white dude with the same resume, and sent it out to 10 test companies. Because I'm a marketer at heart, so I'm always trying to A/B test shit. So, and 7 out of those 10 companies responded to the fake profile of like Billy or whatever I named him, and didn't respond to me. And so I got frustrated. I ended up getting the job at. Yo, does this sound like Kanye at the end of the last call or something? Like, I feel like I'm getting that vibe.
Like mid-key, yeah.
Yo, no one was giving me opportunity. So, I ended up at Joanne Fabrics, bro, which is crazy enough, making minimum wage, man. And, I was just frustrated. And I was like, man, I need to make more money. Really push me is just like survival, bro. Like, everybody's entrepreneurial journey is different. And I always say comparison is the thief of joy. And like, what's for you is for you. And for me, what kind of catapulted me into like entrepreneurial kind of, aspirations was just like survival and making more money, man. I had to go out far to work a minimum wage job, man. By the time, I don't know if you had those minimum wage jobs, by the time you actually bought some food and the gas it took you to get back and forth to work or the bus, and you'd be like, man, like I barely made any money today. So, that really forced me to just get creative and innovative and, start my first thing.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you left Joanne's Fabrics. Talk to us about your personal social media brand and how that's helped you throughout your career as an entrepreneur and a marketer.
It's really interesting, man. For me, I have a weird relationship with social media. in the personal brand. We were chatting a little bit before this and just talking about how different my perspective is on things and personal brands and things like that. But, to answer your question, I think that social media has been very helpful for me in the growth of my companies. And it's been a way for me to acquire users, for me to tap into new audiences, for me to really be able to communicate with different types of people, get different types of feedback loops on different products and different things that I'm working on. Like, most likely, if I'm trying to start something new, like, you'll know, because probably before I started like the art stuff, like I was like asking questions about art or like, doing different things like that. So it's a great, feedback loop. But also it's been a great way for me to actually earn money through brand partnerships and things like that. I mean, you've done it as well to put towards your business. I know with like your business, you probably took some of that social media revenue that you were building off of your personal brand and was able to, put that towards your company. And so like I've literally built a couple companies off of just money that I made as like an influencer and things like that. And so, people be trying to give you shit for it, but it's good money, and it's something that you can put towards something positive and investments and things like that. And so I've been very fortunate to have that side of it, but it also comes with a lot of stuff as well, like negative stuff as well.
For sure. And it's good to hear stories about people using influencer marketing as part of what they do, but not the entire like crux of their value. It's always important to hear about things like that. If you were starting from square one and building a personal brand from scratch in 2020, what would you change?
I wouldn't build one. No, that's the truth, man. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of eyes on you. Mm-hmm. I miss the simpler times of being able to tweet whatever I wanted to or post whatever I wanted to. And, I think the internet, man, is a battleground. It's like there's constant judgment. There's constant expectations of you. And, man, I miss that freedom, and like, I warn anybody that is interested in building a personal brand, like, it looks cool, but man, there's a lot of negatives and cons that come with that. And you gotta take the good with the bad, you know what I mean? And like, I made my bed, so I'm laying in it now, and I'm also benefiting off of a lot of benefits that come from it. Like we were just talking about, like influencer money and being able to acquire customers and do all these different things. But there's a lot of other stuff that comes along with it. And if I was in 2020 Everett now would put so much more energy into investing in the brand that I'm working for or I'm building than my own personal brand. And yeah, that's just where I am now. But like, for me, like I said, be careful what you wish for, but if you're going to build a personal brand, just do it in a genuine way. Make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. You don't want to create an image that isn't really you. That's whether it's your personal brand or a company brand, you know what I mean? Because you got to live up to that constantly, and I would say be very, very authentic and humanize yourself. I think one thing I didn't do as well the first time around was humanizing myself, because you feel this responsibility to be perfect, man. And we're not perfect. We fuck up all the time. So that's probably my 2 cents on that. Probably not what people would expect me to say, but that's just where I'm at. I think you really should invest in your company brand and the brand that you're building in for your personal brand. Let the actions speak for themselves.
It's a good game right there. So you've spoken before about how emotional intelligence has helped you to build world-class products and world-class services. How has emotional intelligence served you as the CMO at Artsy in 2020?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest thing is just being able to understand the customer, which is extremely important. Extremely important in any marketing product, or really any role in general, but especially when it comes to marketing your product, which I'm very passionate about. And, you know, in the art world, you know, it's a very niche world in terms of like these major experienced collectors, and, you know, understanding their wants and their needs and what they want to see in our products is something that's extremely important. But I think the emotional intelligence part really comes in as we're expanding past the traditional art world, right? Where it's like, you know, trying to turn someone like you into a rabid collector, and being able to put yourself in the shoes of someone who's never collected art before. Because I was that person just a few years ago, and I know how intimidating it can be, how opaque the art world can feel, and like really letting people know that this is something that is welcoming, this is something that you can understand and learn. And I think really being able to empathize with that new set of customers that's out there.
Got it. Let's talk more about 2020. What are some of the biggest mistakes, if you've seen any, that you've seen startups make while trying to market during this crazy season that we're in with the pandemic, with politics and everything else going on?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the biggest thing I've probably seen is like people being performative over being genuine, whether it's in regards to COVID, whether it's in regards to Black Lives Matter, all of that. Like, I've just seen a lot of brands and startups be very performative in their actions, and not really have good intentions, and people have called them out for it, you know? And you think you were doing something good, and then eventually it fires on you, and is negative points towards your brand. And so, you know, a lot of companies, they need to really think about where their stance really is when they decide to really position themselves, and startups really position themselves on doing so and doing these things. And another thing is like not getting diverse perspectives, like kind of staying in that same lane of like, you've seen a lot of companies and startups time and time again. This isn't just a 2020 thing, but not getting diverse perspectives on their products. Release something towards, say, you know, engaging the Black audience, for instance, then you should probably talk to your
I think I was on mute still. Sorry about that.
Oh, what did you say?
What are some principles startups should rely on to make their campaigns meaningful?
Going back to what I just said, is like really having an authentic voice and an authentic brand. No sound. Someone hear sound.
I'm sorry.
I had the same issue. Emia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name, Emia Green. I had or Imaya, I'm not sure, but I had the same issue with sound, so I'm sorry about that. But the question was what principles brands should kind of incorporate. I think that one thing is really being a genuine brand. And you guys can hear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties. We're trying to make it work. Building the genuine brand, I think, is going to be important. Also, like, product market fit is extremely important. I see a lot of brands end up wasting a lot of paid acquisition dollars for a product that isn't sticky, or a product in which they don't have life cycle marketing set up, or they don't have channels for retention and strategy for retention for those people that they're bringing in. I think when you're thinking about marketing and acquiring customers, you really need to lay out that user journey. You got to really understand where your users are coming from, what they're looking for from your product. And once you're able to do that, then you can really turn on the faucet when it comes to paid acquisition, to brand efforts and things like that. And so I think just being very humble and saying, hey, I'm going to listen to my customers. I'm going to figure out what their wants needs are, and I'm going to optimize my experiences and my marketing to that. I think it's something that you can really hang your head on.
Got it. And let's talk about the founders themselves. What do you think are some underrated skills that more founders should be focusing on and thinking about?
Empathy and emotional intelligence. I go back to this all the time, man. Like, you have to have empathy for your customers. You have to have empathy for the people that are working with you. What a lot of startup founders don't understand is, like, bro, you got the majority of the company. You own the majority of the company. These people, there's no way they can be as invested as you are. You have to be inspiring to them. You got to be able to rally the troops, but you also got to separate yourself that this is like maybe your life dream. And for other people, this might be a job. Like, that person that's working customer service that you only paying $12 an hour might be like, yo, bro, this isn't the dream for me, and like being able to empathize that, everybody isn't going to have that same fire and that passion as you. Obviously, you want to get people who are passionate about what you're doing, but you got to take a step back and really understand where people are at, and I see a lot of startup founders struggle with people not working as hard as they are, or not being as passionate as they are. And it's like, well, do they have a reason to do that? Do they have a reason to be invested? Like, did you skim on that equity that you gave them? Could you have paid them a little bit more salary? You just raised that Series C round, and they know you got $100 in the bank, and they've been busting their ass, and you still haven't given them a promotion or a pay raise, And so, like, really being able to empathize with the people that work for you, but then also your customers, and having humility to know that you don't know everything, and also that you're not the best at everything, and making sure that you're putting people around you. Like, as a startup founder, there should be somebody, if you're running a great startup, there should be somebody at your company that's better than you at everything. Like, marketing and paid acquisition, I got someone way better than me. Product way better than me, coding way better than me. Like, you shouldn't be the best person or the smartest person about everything in the room. And it takes a humble person to really get to that point. Also, for the founders that aren't technical, like, you got to be able to speak that language. You have to be able to engage with engineers. Like, engineers will get disengaged fast if they feel like you don't know what you're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't speak their language or understand, and also, like, engineers, if they become disengaged, they can also bullshit you, and you're not moving and you're not iterating as fast enough. So you got to be able to speak that language, even if you're not a developer yourself. But also, on the other end, if you do come from that technical background, you have to appreciate brand efforts and things that might not be as familiar with you. So it still really ties back to that empathy. And then I think healthy habits to maintain your physical and mental health. Like, there's like this hustle porn culture, like hustle, lose sleep, grind. Like, fuck that, bro. Like you only have one body, you only have one life, you only have one mind. Like, you really have to take care of yourself. And like, I see a lot of founders not taking care of themselves, myself included. I've done that 1,010%. And so, yeah, man, it's really important for people to take care of themselves.
Got it. And I heard you speak a lot about empathy for the customer and for who you're working with, and you kind of like alluded to that towards the end, do you find space to make space for empathy for yourself?
How do you find space to make empathy for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good ass question. I think you have to be able to lift your head up a little bit. You know what I mean? As a startup founder, you have not only yourself to take care of, you might have a family to take care of. I think being a startup founder and having kids and families and wives and things like that, like, or husbands, like, it makes it that much harder. And sometimes you're investing in so many other people that you're not investing in yourself and taking care of yourself. And it's really about having that mindfulness and taking that time to ask yourself on a weekly basis. This is what I do now. Ask myself on a weekly basis, what do I need? What does Everett need? Do I need a nap? Yes, Everett needs a nap. You know what I mean? Do I need a lunch on Friday that I can just enjoy myself? Can I go and hop and check out some art? Like, what does Everett need? And being able to ask yourself that, like, every week you should be saying, what does my business need me to do to be successful? But also, what do I need to do for myself to be successful and feel good?
Absolutely. And I'll go back into personal branding for a bit, so we have a little more time. So you've been through a number of different industries. Have you made major shifts to your personal brand as you've gone from industry to industry?
Yeah, I mean, my first company was like in the nightlife industry, partying and stuff like that. So that was completely different, man. Like, I had a bunch of flyers in really bad outfits and nightlife pictures on my social media back in the day. And then, it really transitioned when I, kind of came into that Silicon Valley world, and I was lead marketing for Qualaroo. And then, we co-founded, me and Sean Ellis, we co-founded growthhackers.com together. And it really changed because a lot of that audience that I was building, they didn't care about what you looked like. They didn't care what you were doing. They were like, yo, you got the gems or nah, bro? Like, you got the marketing gems. You have the growth hacking gems. Like, that's what we need. And we built, an amazing, audience at Growth Hackers, have millions of people go through that platform. And so a lot of that, like, a lot of my brand was very much focused on being helpful to other marketers and people in the startup space. And then there was like kind of a transition when, like, I never did any interviews, no speaking engagements. I actually just talking about this on a podcast with Ad Week, and this guy from the school that I dropped out of asked me to do an interview. And it was the first interview I ever did. It was for a small blog. And, at the time I had probably like 30,000 Twitter followers. We knew each other at that time, and, I just become CMO of Sticker Mule and all that. And, I had some success. I sold a company, another company I led marketing for got acquired, but I never really did any press. And that was the first time where I felt like I really genuinely kind of had that selfish personal brand where I was like, oh, snap, like, I'm doing something for myself, instead of just not just being in the service of others. And that really changed because then that put me in a position to get more interviews and more opportunities and more exposure, and really kind of transition more into this person that was more inspiring than like, hey, I'm gonna give you all of these tips all the time and really be that person. And I think that brand was somebody, and I say this in the most humble way possible, but I felt like at that time, like, the tech world, Silicon Valley, didn't really see somebody that looked like me, dressed like me, talked like me, came from my background. Like, a lot of the Black people that I met in Silicon Valley, man, they had like Stanford MBAs and went to Harvard, and talked hella proper, and that wasn't me, and so I think I built just a very authentic brand. And even though things have shifted, like, I got fed up with the tech community, honestly, like the tech world, and like I really just, went into my passion of art, and I'm leaning heavy into art now. I'm still in the tech world. Artsy is obviously still a tech company, like any company is now, but like, it feels good. I love the art world, and I love being able to share things that I love and that I'm passionate about, and not caring so much. Like, I got to a point where I got so fed up that I was literally only posting ads. People would joke. They were like, bro, you only post influencer ads. Like, because I got so sick of social media because I didn't care for it. But now being able to share art is something that I'm actually passionate about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll go to Q&A, see if we have anything. So I'm sure there are many people who are watching and hearing you say, you know, you're talking about you don't want the personal brand anymore. You wouldn't do it again. The things you've learned and everything else. But there's somebody here who's watching who's like, I mean, I hear you, but I still want that. And you know what I mean? I want to know, you know, what advice you would give to the you like 10, 15 years ago, like knowing that, you know, you don't want what you have to a certain extent as far as your personal brand, but somebody still wants it. You know, what's the advice you give?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the advice I would give to me 10, 15 years ago would be valuable now, man. You got people on TikTok now, you know what I mean? It's a completely different world, you know what I mean? And a different time. And so I don't even know the advice I would give to someone 10, 15 years ago is even as valuable now, you know, in this time. What I would say is, number one, be authentic to yourself from the jump. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, you do not want to create a brand of somebody that's not you. Like, you're constantly going to have imposter syndrome. You're constantly going to, you know, doubt yourself or feel like you have to live this lie if you aren't who you truly are. I think number two is understanding where your target audience lives online. You know what I mean? Like, I know people who are like hella big Pinterest influencers. Like, they understand like their audience is on Pinterest. TikTok, that's not my people, so I'm not there. You know what I mean? Instagram, Twitter, you know? And so really understanding where your audience engages, right? You know, it doesn't matter if you have, you know, 1 million followers on Instagram if like your audience isn't on Instagram, you know? And so really recognizing where your audience is. It may be on Medium, it may be on YouTube, it may be on all different types of platforms. And so really understanding where your audience lives is going to be extremely important, in building something that's authentic to you that you feel comfortable with is like the two pieces of advice that I would give.
Got it.
For someone that wants our brand.
Got it. And I want to pull out one more thing. You spoke a lot to like knowing your audience and knowing where your people are. So for someone who is starting their own brand, which will live separate from the company they've built, you know, they're building their own personal brand to go along with whatever they founded. How would you even advise them to start to figure out who their people are? You know, say they're getting on Facebook and being themselves for the first time, and building an audience as themselves for the first time.
Right. So we're, you know, really finding out what your interests are, right? For instance, like for me, you know, when I was building a brand within like marketing, right? Like, bro, I was hanging out like marketing profs, inbound.org, growth hackers, because we found it. There was a lot of like Twitter chats, like I don't know if you remember those, like Twitter chats with the hashtag that you follow that different people would do. Like, you have to just do the research yourself and like talk to other people in your industry and find out, hey, where are you engaging online? Where do you like to hang out? What is that Reddit page or that forum that you like to hang out in? Or, you know, what are you in a Facebook group? Or, you know, are you in a Slack channel? Like, understanding where these people, like, you just have to be humble and ask questions, like, and really go out there and get it and really do your research, man. It's not gonna, you know, a lot of the marketing communities that I found early on, like, I just Googled it, man. Like, I just went after it, you know, and just, you know, understanding that you don't know everything and that there's a huge world out there. I remember there was like a growth hackers in like France. I was like, whoa, like there's a whole nother thing here, you know what I mean? So I think just taking that time to talk to people that's in your space and understanding where they're interacting online and talking to other people where they're interacting online is extremely important, and you know, investing in those avenues.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for all these gems. We're gonna see if we can open up now for some Q&A from the audience.
Gentlemen, that was absolutely incredible, and delighted we managed to get over the technical hiccup we had earlier on, and we made it work. So thank you so much for being innovative on that. We certainly do have a few questions. I guess one of the ones I would definitely love to ask you, before we kind of dive into some of the ones from the chat is, you spoke of obviously like building a brand on Twitter and some of these other social media platforms. Because we do live in a tech world, how do you know which brand or which social media platform to build your brand on, to really invest the time to building your brand on, or should you essentially invest your time in all of them? Like, now we know TikTok is a massive platform. Should you be investing your time in building your brand in all of the platforms, or be hyper focused on one?
Right. I think you need to see, like, you have to have people that you look towards and look up to. Like, not look up to, like, you shouldn't idolize anybody or anything like that. But if you see somebody, it's so crazy. Like, I never said I was going to join LinkedIn again, and I joined LinkedIn, and I realized, like, there's people on LinkedIn that literally have like 200 Instagram followers and then like 50,000 LinkedIn followers. But they understand that, like, they might have a marketing agency, so they're trying to market to people on LinkedIn who have the marketing dollars to spend with their agency, right? And understanding that. So I think really taking the time to look at the people, like, if you can think about where you are and where you want to be 10 years from now, and find the people that are doing what you're doing, and seeing the communities that they're involved in and the platforms that they're investing the most time in. Like, I see, like, for instance, startup, like, venture capital Twitter is like crazy. Like, these people have huge audiences on Twitter because they understand that the startup people are on Twitter. But then you go to Instagram and they're mad washed. Like, they got like 200 followers, like -3 followers, like 6 pictures. Like, they still got old filters on them. You know what I mean? Because they know that their audience isn't on Instagram, but for VC Twitter, venture capital Twitter, it's popping on Twitter. You know what I mean? So it's like really looking at the people. Like, if you want to be in venture capital and you see that, hey, this person, these venture capitalists, they're engaging on Twitter, it's probably they're doing that for a reason.
Superb. Brilliant. Thank you for that. So I have a question here from Anjani. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your first name correctly. What is your advice on engaging communities in art who are not typically included in the art world?
And I'm sorry, I missed that.
So what is your advice on engaging communities in art who are not typically included in the art world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, being able to relate to them on a human level and understand what are the friction points of why they haven't engaged with the art world, right? I didn't engage with the art world because I thought, one, art was super expensive. You can buy art. We got pieces on Artsy for $100, $200. You know what I mean? Like, I think you really have to dispel and demystify the art world. You have to make it so that people understand that this is a place that's accessible. Like, anything that you're worried about in terms of the art world, where you're like, oh man, I don't see, Black people collecting art. Well, here's 20 top Black collectors that you can see that are building amazing collections. Oh, I can't afford XYZ, or I really love this artist, but like, I saw that his works are millions of dollars. Have you ever heard about Prince? Like, some people don't even know that Prince exists and are at a more accessible price point. So I think education is like the biggest part, and then being able to show people that the art world is multifaceted and that it's not just one level. There's many different levels, many different types of people, and there's many lanes to be successful in that space. And so, like I said, really humanizing that experience. Like, I remember going to galleries. I mean, Michell, he interviewed me for MTV News when I launched ArtX, and galleries wouldn't even speak to me. But hey, you can introduce somebody to some galleries where you'll go in and they'll roll out the welcome mat for you. So it's like really educating people what's genuinely out there.
No, brilliant. Love that. And I think this next question definitely would maybe love to hear from your perspective as well, Michell, in addition to Everett's, and that. How do you decide what area to go into with marketing when you're interested in a range of areas?
I'll let you go, Michelle.
How do you decide what area to go into? I think it would depend first and foremost on what you actually want to get out of it, and then being able to pick out. I mean, I think to me, marketing is it's about solving a problem, but it's also about finding the opportunity that's like right there in front of you, you know? So you figure out what you want to accomplish. And then I would go into figuring out, again, what you have available, what resources, what connections, and what audiences you already have access to, and kind of let that drive whatever your approach is for whatever your next marketing venture might be.
Hey, I'll say this: it's like you got to see what most naturally fits you. And here's the thing: if you're like a lot of people that want to get into marketing, ultimately, a lot of them want to, become a head of marketing someday or VP of marketing someday. And what you got to understand is, at the CMO level, like, you're not going to be the best at anything on your team. You're going to have a lot of different specialists. And like, I hate to say this because I don't want to sound messed up, but like, the specialists aren't the ones that come, like, if you're always just this specialist, like, you're never going to expand, become that CEO or that CMO or really be able to run a company the right way. So it's like, when you want to get into the door, find one thing that you can really, really do well. But then once you find that thing that you really, really do well, like, really try to learn and spread yourself out and become more knowledgeable about marketing. Once you become more knowledgeable about marketing, now you're becoming more knowledgeable about product and operations. And you know what? 2 years down the road, you might be ready to be a CEO, man, and start your own company or run your own company. But it's about expanding beyond that specialty. So find that thing that that you can be super invaluable to a company or brand, and then start to bridge out if you have like higher aspirations. And then some people don't. Like, if you like super all about paid acquisition, I know millionaires that just focus on paid acquisition on Facebook and clients and things like that. You can do that too. So I'm not knocking that, but if you want to become a more generalized person as a CMO or CEO or founder of a startup, I would definitely encourage becoming more well-versed throughout the company in different marketing.
Great advice from you both. Thank you so much for that. And one last one here. We got one quick one, but I'll take this. Maybe that will be a slightly longer form answer, which is, how do you align product pricing with product marketing?
Yeah. So this is a really, really good question. So I'm trying to not give something away with Artsy, but like, for instance, like Artsy, we have people that are subscribed to Artsy. We know that, what they're paying per month, but we know how much money and value that we're driving, right? And so when you know how much you're driving in value for your customers, then you can really start to align that with product pricing. But if you don't have a great feel for the value that you actually have, like if you know that, for instance, I had the company Pop Social, and I had people who would get so much value because they were acquiring so many customers that they knew at that $50 price point, they were making $300,000, $400,000 a month. And so I knew that I could then, boom, maybe take that up to $79.99 a month and things like that. And so it's really about realizing what value you're really driving. And that's going to take a lot of conversations with customers. So like knowing what they're willing to pay. And you got to be able to kind of swim through the bullshit a little bit, because there's what they're going to tell you. And then there's going to be what you know that you can do, and you find that sweet spot of where it's not going to be a friction point for them to drop off. But if you're driving a lot of value, you can continue to drive up those price points or align that price point.
Brilliant. Love that. Thank you so much. Michell, anything you'd like to add to that?
I mean, he covered a lot with that. I'll add my little 2 cents. I think the only thing that I think about alongside what he expressed is, what you imagine the budget would be of whatever your target audience is. So, I don't create tech products. I work more with physical products. So I'm thinking about, if I'm creating, for example, something as simple as a t-shirt, the pricing is going to depend on who you're marketing to, whether it's a kid in college or it's, somebody who we could be marketing to startup founders, for example, something really exclusive. Those two different groups of people will probably have very different budgets. So again, we're basing it not only on the value that we provide, but people will literally pay more for certain things based on the price tag creating exclusivity. So you can afford to play into people's egos sometimes, right? And if you're not making a product with explicit value, but it's more so a style choice or a personal preference, you can play around a lot with the price point, especially when you have a different type of audience that has a bigger budget.
Yeah. Brand goes so much into this, man. Like, I live in Soho. I be walking down the street and they be having fake Louis bags. I'm like, damn, they look hella real. But Louis Vuitton has created a great brand, Like, I don't know how different that product really is from what they got on this corner, but brand that's a whole nother conversation, but that's where brand comes into play as well.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible, super insightful. Some of the audience are asking, what is the best way for them to reach out to you? Would that be on Twitter or specific websites you'd like to share for them?
I'll let my man Michell go first.
All right, I'm pretty much everywhere. I am MICHELL CCLARK. So Michell C. Clark, and I'm on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and MichellCClark.com. So I'm pretty simple.
Perfect.
Cool, man. And for me, it's just my name, Everett, with an E on the end, on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know what my LinkedIn shit is at this point, but you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Is probably the easiest way to hit me. And download Artsy, man. Like, go do that. Check out artsy.net. Download the app. Buy yourself some art. Buy your kids some art. Buy everybody some art.
There you go. Absolutely lovely. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to move you to backstage now. Thank you so much for such an insightful